Before there were kingdoms, before there were grand wars fought with celestial weapons, and long before the oceans were crossed, there was a morning where the world almost ended. Not by a demon king, and not by a curse, but by the innocent hunger of a child. Imagine standing on the ancient earth, looking up at the horizon as the morning sun begins to bleed its golden light into the dawn. Now imagine looking closer, and seeing a tiny shadow breaking through the clouds. A shadow that isn't running away from the blinding heat, but racing toward it. This is the legend of a toddler who looked at the supreme star of our solar system, a roaring, volatile furnace of cosmic fire, and saw nothing more than a ripe, juicy mango. Today, I want to take you back to a time when space was a playground, and a single baby's appetite nearly choked the breath out of the entire universe. Our story begins in the cradle of a quiet valley, hidden deep within the ancient forests. A divine child lay sleeping. He was the son of Anjana, but inside his veins flowed the boundless, untamed life force of Vayu, the Lord of the Wind itself. He was a creature born of air and sky, possessing a strength that hadn't yet been tested, and a speed that hadn't yet been unleashed. On this particular morning, his mother left the cave for just a brief moment to gather wild fruits for her son. Right then, the baby woke up. Inside his tiny frame, an insatiable, roaring hunger flared to life. He cried out, but the forest was quiet. There was no one to feed him. His eyes, wide with the innocence of youth, scanned the dark walls of the cave, then shifted toward the open sky. And there it was. Hovering just above the eastern peaks was a brilliant, glowing sphere of reddish gold. To a hungry child who knew nothing of cosmic physics, gravity, or solar flares, that burning star was the most beautiful, sweet fruit he had ever seen. And a child of the wind doesn't crawl for what he wants. He bent his knees. The bedrock beneath his feet fractured into dust. And with a sound like a cracking mountain, he launched himself directly into the heavens. Within seconds, the child broke through the Earth's atmosphere, leaving a violent wake of parted clouds behind him. He entered the freezing, silent vacuum of outer space, tracking a straight line toward the sun. The closer he got, the more intense the heat became. The solar radiation was enough to vaporize oceans, yet it merely warmed his skin. His divine body absorbed the solar energy, making him glow like a second sun racing through the dark. But this wasn't an empty cosmos. It happened to be the day of a solar eclipse. A dark, shadow-cloaked entity named Rahu was already traversing the stars, preparing to cross paths with the sun and plunge the earth into darkness. Rahu was driving his celestial chariot, anticipating his moment of cosmic alignment, when he felt a sudden, blistering heat behind him. He looked over his shoulder. Rushing through the void of space at an impossible velocity was a glowing, chubby-cheeked child, opening his mouth wide, completely overtaking him. Rahu tried to block the path, but the baby casually brushed him aside like a bothersome insect, focused entirely on his golden prize. Terrified and utterly humiliated by a toddler, Rahu fled. He sprinted all the way to the high courts of the heavens, bursting into the palace of Indra, the king of the Devas, screaming, "My lord! A monster is ascending. It is outrunning the planets, and it is going to swallow the sun whole." King Indra knew the stakes. If the sun disappeared, the cosmic clock would stop. Photosynthesis would end, the oceans would freeze, and life across every realm would cease to exist. Mounting his thunderous, multi-tusked white elephant, Airavata, Indra charged into the cosmic void, gathering the dark storm clouds of the heavens behind him. By the time Indra arrived, the child was floating directly at the gates of the sun. His mouth was open wide, ready to bite into the star. But the sudden rumble of divine thunder caught the baby's attention. He turned around, and through the cosmic dust, he saw a magnificent, glowing white elephant flying toward him. To the child, this wasn't a threat. It was a new game. He smiled, forgot about the sun for a fraction of a second, and reached out his tiny hands to catch the elephant instead. Seeing this unstoppable force moving directly toward him, Indra panicked. He raised his ultimate weapon, the Vajra, a thunderbolt forged from the bones of a supreme sage, designed to shatter demonic empires. With the weight of the universe on his shoulders, Indra hurled the lightning bolt. It struck the child directly on the jaw. The explosion echoed across the silent void. The blinding blue light faded to reveal the limp, unconscious body of the baby falling backward, plummeting through the stars, dropping helplessly back down to earth. But the universe didn't celebrate. Because someone was watching. From the corners of the earth, Vayu, the wind god, saw his innocent boy falling from the heavens, bleeding from his broken jaw. Vayu caught his son in his massive arms, cradling the unconscious child. And as he looked at the boy's wounded face, his grief turned into a quiet, absolute fury. To punish the heavens, Vayu stepped into the deepest, darkest cavern of the earth, carrying his son. And then, he stopped. He stopped the wind. He stopped the currents. He withdrew every single molecule of air from the universe. Instantly, a horrific silence fell over creation. On Earth, oceans became completely stagnant. Forests went entirely still. Humans fell to their knees, clutching their throats, unable to draw breath. Even in the golden palaces of the heavens, the gods began to choke and suffocate. Without the wind, the breath of life was snuffed out. The entire universe was grinding to a slow, agonizing halt. Realizing the catastrophic error of their judgment, Lord Brahma, the creator, had to gather every choking deity and walk down to the mouth of Vayu's cave, bowing their heads in absolute surrender. Lord Brahma stepped into the dim cave, kneeling beside the wind god. With immense tenderness, the creator placed his hand upon the child's broken jaw, breathing divine warmth back into his veins. The baby's eyes fluttered open. He looked around and smiled. The moment the child breathed, Vayu released his grip on the atmosphere. A massive, rushing wave of wind swept across the earth and the heavens. Trees danced, oceans swelled, and gods and humans alike took a desperate, gasping breath of life. The gods knew that this child was no ordinary entity, he was a force that could alter destiny. To appease his father and honor the boy, they showered him with gifts that would alter the course of history. Brahma blessed him with absolute immunity from any weapon known to gods or demons. Indra, heavy with regret, declared that his body would henceforth be as indestructible as a diamond, and named him Hanuman, the one with the prominent jaw. And the sun. The very sun he had tried to consume looked down with pride and offered to become his personal guru, promising to teach him the secrets of the cosmos. What began as a toddler's simple, hungry quest for a piece of fruit ended up forging the most loyal, powerful, and immortal warrior the world would ever know.